Hello, I'm Rebecca Horan, and a very warm welcome to A Little Birdie Told Me, a podcast brought to you by rollercoaster.ie. In this season, I will sit down and chat to 16 pretty interesting people to discuss pregnancy, parenting, and everything in between. On this week's episode, I speak to Ranae Von Meding. Ranae is CEO for Equality for Children, LGBTQ+, and parenting advocate and a wedding celebrant. She's also a mum to 2 girls and is currently documenting her pregnancy journey on Instagram. I'm really thrilled to be speaking to this woman today. I've been following her on Instagram, one of these friends that you think is your bestie because you follow them on Instagram and follow their story with glee. And when I had the opportunity to bring her in, I was thrilled. So welcome, Ranae Von Meding.
Yes, thank you.
CEO of Equality for Children, LGBTQ advocate for parental and family rights in this country, and has done incredible work there. I feel like MC, singer, dancer, mum of 2, lover, just the most incredible woman, and also has recovered from eating disorder, type 1 diabetic, discusses all of these things and more on her Instagram. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
Your name is funky. It's the most wonderful name. Can you tell me a little bit about that name?
Well, Ranae is Greek. Okay. I have no idea where the Greek connection is from. We're originally from the States, but we moved here when I was 4. But yeah, the name Ranae is Greek, and we always called on my dad's side we called the grandparents Yaya and Papu, which is also Greek for grandma and grandpa. And Von Meding is, I suppose, a mix of Dutch and German.
Yes, because my husband's South African, so he's got a lot of Von friends. Okay, because Ranae is usually Ori and E, so I'm always like, how is that pronounced? Okay, so Ranae. Okay, perfect. Now, you have a wonderful wife.
I do.
Audrey.
I do.
And 2 beautiful girls. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of exciting things to touch on today, but I think it all kind of starts, and it doesn't all start with Audrey, but it starts with this wonderful person that you are, with all this passion in your heart and the soul, and then this connection with Audrey. Can you tell me a bit about that? So
yeah, Audrey and I, our 15-year anniversary is coming up this year, which is crazy. I know, I feel like I'm still 20, but I'm not. I'll be 36 later this year.
Still very young.
But that's just crazy to me to think that like we've been together for a decade and a half. We met in college. We were both studying to be actors. Okay. And I was in first year, Audrey was in 4th year, and we just sparked this connection. And up until that point, you know, I was raised in a super religious household. That's a whole other podcast.
Wow, that is a whole other podcast.
But I had always just thought that my life would be grow up, get married to a Christian man, have lots of babies, be a good housewife. I just thought that was what was in the cards for me. And so I had never even thought about dating a woman before. It hadn't happened. It had always been boys, men. And when I met Audrey, something sparked, and I didn't realize what it was. I didn't know it was attraction at first, but I knew I was drawn to this person. And looking back, you know, before that, I know I obviously had lots of crushes on lots of different people, but I didn't understand what that was. So with Audrey, we became very fast friends, you know, the sort of friends who like make each other lunch.
Like attached to the hip friends.
Yeah. Okay. And people didn't get it. People thought it was weird. This young, like I was much more eager to please. I'm like a recovering people pleaser now.
Where were you studying together? Sorry.
Bullally Theatre Training Company in town. And so I was a real people pleaser back then. And Audrey was from Ballyfermot, and the complete opposite, complete opposite. And people just couldn't understand why we were friends. And more so for Audrey, they're like, what are you doing with your one? Yeah. Like, she's a nutcase. And, but we just got on so well, and we were really close for the guts of a year. And she knows that she immediately knew she liked me, but she never said anything because she didn't want to jeopardize the friendship. And it was actually me who made the first move. Wow. Right around my 21st birthday. We had been like spending weekends together. I'd stay over at her place.
It never occurred to you it was a falling in love situation? No. It never occurred to you regarding maybe sex or anything? It was all just this friendship and passion for each other.
Yeah, it was
we all fall in love with our friends when we love our friends.
Yeah, and I just wanted to be around her all the time. I wanted to spend nights with her, and but I just never thought that it could be anything more than that. And it was actually after a night out, I remember it so vividly. It's like one of the only moments in my life that I just remember so clearly of having this sudden realization and being struck. And we were lying in bed, in her bed, head to toe, as you do with your friends on a sleepover.
Besties, yeah.
And I just got struck by this need to kiss her.
Yeah. You fancied her. You didn't realise.
I've never kissed a girl before. And, you know, all of these thoughts are going in my head. I'm probably still half drunk. And I just couldn't go to sleep because and she knew, and I was tossing and turning, and finally she was getting really annoyed at me, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?"
Because did you say to her?
I didn't say to her, not yet, but I was just, there was clearly something wrong with me. And she kept being like, "What's wrong with you? Like, go to sleep." And finally I somehow managed to cobble together a sentence of, I sort of want to kiss you. And then the longest pause ever in the history of long pauses.
That was mean, Audrey. If you're listening, that was mean. Oh my gosh.
She just, and I think she was just kind of trying to like, is this a for real thing or is this a drunken thing? And just, you know, if we cross this line, you know, there's no going back.
Yeah.
And eventually she kind of leaned in and pulled back. It was like this whole thing, like I'm probably making more of it in my head than what it was, but eventually we kissed, and then it just felt right.
Fireworks, or strange for you, or just
perfect,
gorgeous?
Just perfect, wow. just like it was meant to be. You know, it felt right. You know, and then, you know, obviously we're 15 years later now, but the weeks and months after that were difficult because it was really exciting, but we didn't tell anyone. It was a big secret. But that was difficult because for me, as I said, I always thought that my life would be so different. And immediately it's like, oh my God, my life is going to look very different.
So Audrey knew what she wanted from life. She was in a different zone, and you were battling maybe what you were meant to be doing. And was it that you were concerned about what others thought, or were you concerned that you were making a bad choice? What was the actual worry for you?
I wasn't concerned about what society at large, or like my circle of friends, because obviously I was training to be an actor, so the majority of my friends were queer. You know, it was more so with familial kind of obligation and like my mom and what she would think. So my dad actually passed away when I was 2 of cancer. So my mom raised us as a single parent.
Wow.
She remarried when I was 13 to a man that I never got on with. And so it was a kind of complicated family situation already. And I had a at the time, very codependent relationship with my mom, not necessarily healthy.
Okay.
So to know that she was going to react very, very badly to this, and, you know, for both of us really to make that decision very early on of, we know we're going to have to get through a lot of stuff for this to ever be okay with everyone. And to have to decide, like, this is going to be really, really hard. Is it worth it?
Isn't that such a pity that you have this huge connection with someone? They change how you feel about the world. They brighten up your world, and yet you're dealing with all of the kind of adversaries and opinion. And isn't it really sad that actually, and I was thinking about it the other day, like same-sex or hetero relationships, there's never that question about how they have sex or what sex they favour, or sex just isn't even brought in. It's like this absolute mainstream given, and the battle is usually like whether they like the guy or the girl or not, but there's never really that drama. And isn't it such a pity that seems to still be the narrative? Not as much, but isn't it so sad? And maybe it makes that love even stronger. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think for us it's made us stronger. I mean, Audrey tried to break up with me so many times, not because she didn't love me, but because she didn't want me to have to go through this hardship.
How did your mum react?
Very badly.
Okay.
Very,
so
very
was
badly.
The case.
Yeah, for years it was terrible. And I won't sugarcoat that. It was terrible. Every time I saw her, she cried. Every time I saw her, she would try to quote Bible verses at me. And, you know, it was awful. Okay. What I will say is, fast forward to 15 years later, and my mom is one of the closest people to our children.
Oh my gosh.
Who babysits for them while we go to like a hotel night away. There's been a lot of change, a lot of growth. If you asked her do you think that their marriage is right, or do you think their relationship is right? She would still tell you, no, she doesn't.
Okay.
So she hasn't changed her beliefs, but she has, I suppose, has opened herself up enough to know.
But she loves you both.
She loves us both.
Yeah, as
and I know she loves Audrey.
Yes.
And she loves our children, and she loves our family, and she respects us as parents. But that was a lot of therapy for me, a lot of boundary setting, a lot of sticking to my guns and knowing what my worth was. And it didn't just happen, but it is possible.
Go you. Like, what a road to finding love. And it's, some people never find their person, and you could have rejected that feeling and said, you know what, it's fine, it was a drunken thing, Audrey. And you could have married some man,
some random guy,
and settled for your life to be bait. And isn't it incredible you didn't? And wow, well, go you, because that is not, like, it's easy to say in a podcast in a few minutes, that was then and this is now, but it's not. Those in-between bits are dirty, messy, horrible and traumatic.
It was very messy.
A lot of
messy.
Making it to 15 years, you know?
Thank you.
And you're the most gorgeous pair. Like, you know, every couple, no couple is perfect, but just the support and the crack that you get out of life and each other is so important, because I think we lose a bit of that.
Yeah.
So Audrey is your love story, but you're also saying that she's brought you through the things that you're doing now. How so? Acting? What happened? So
what happened with acting? I mean, I'll always be an actor at heart and a singer. I never shut up. So I suppose early on we had talked about having kids.
Okay.
And this is early on.
Okay.
You know, I don't remember there ever being a point where we were like, do you want kids? Do you want kids? It was just a given. We both wanted kids. She comes from a family of 8 kids. I'm the youngest of 4. Millions of nieces and nephews. We're both really good with kids. I'm great with kids, but Audrey is like the Pied Piper.
It's like my husband.
Like, kids gravitate towards her. All kids. You know, I've seen kids who won't crack a smile at anyone, and 2 seconds with Audrey and she's got them in fits. And the parents are like, oh my God, how do you do that? So it was never, would we have kids? It was when. And Audrey at that stage had started working in stage management. Anyone in the theatre industry knows that is a more stable job than acting.
Okay.
So she was kind of in constant employment, whereas I was just trying to take any little bits that were thrown to me. You mentioned earlier also that, you know, I'm recovered from an eating disorder. I was also going through that. I
didn't know that. So from childhood or just in your 20s? Like, when did it start?
16,
okay.
So 16, and it was on and off till I was 26, so about 10 years. When I first met Audrey, I was in a really good place. And for the first couple of years, I was in a really good place. And it's all, you know, it's all
Ebbs
kind of...
and flows.
Yeah, and it's all kind of linked back, I think, a lot to my childhood and how I was raised and the religion and, you know, not being accepted when I told my mom who I was in love with. You know, it's all to do with, like, your life feeling out of control. And,
absolutely.
you know, so we actually had, like, a medical emergency in the family when I was 24, and that really triggered it. So I had about a year of, you know, being not being on the point of death, but it was kind of, when I was about 25, I had to make a choice of whether I wanted to live or I wanted to die. It was, to that point, it was very, very bad. So during that time, I was doing bits and pieces of work, but I wasn't really working. I wasn't really living or, you know, engaging with my life. Yeah. I decided I wanted to get better. You know, we knew we wanted to have kids, and I knew.
How did Audrey, as the observer, I mean, she loves you dearly, and she is watching this woman harm herself without meaning to. This is an illness, and it's really sad, and it's a blight, really. And there's so many boys and girls and men and women dealing with it at the moment in this country. But how did she cope with that? Was she good at supporting you, or did she find that really hard? Because she can make you angry if you don't understand the reasons. And I don't know whether it for you was bulimia or anorexia, or how it appeared.
It was kind of a combination of both. She was incredible at the time, and you know, I wouldn't have gotten through it without her. She was amazing. But the repercussions of that went on for years. And you mentioned the word anger. There was a lot of residual anger, even if after I got better, and even up until the last couple of years. You know, I'm coming up on 10 years of recovery.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
And it's taken up until like the last couple of years for Audrey to really be able to work through that residual anger of what I put her through, even though it was a mental illness, and I wasn't knowingly putting her through this. But there was a lot of anger at the illness.
Sure. And what it does to the person and the relationship.
Yeah.
Like any resentment in a relationship, if it isn't really dealt with, it just hovers.
Yeah.
And
she could never really deal with it at the time because it was like my life was in danger. Yeah. And it was just, we need to get Ranae better.
That's the problem. These things creep up. They creep up in a relationship. You don't know it, and then someone says something in an argument. You're like, why are you cross about that? And then it becomes a thing. So it's very hard. She sounds very special, but so are you. I mean, what a lot of stuff to...
honestly, people wouldn't believe half the stuff.
You gotta write a movie. You know,
there's been lots of life or death situations and lots of, the drama always seems to come to us. But then you only ever help...
No, you only ever help people with the knowledge you have. You're not just... This isn't just, so I recovered from... All that you do now is helping others. And so equality for children, what is this... What do you do in this work?
Okay, so after I had recovered from the eating disorder, we then decided that we really wanted to start making headway on having kids.
Wow.
And we decided we wanted to try some form of IVF. After lots of kind of back and forth, we knew nothing about fertility treatment, nothing about IVF, nothing about what was allowed in Ireland, what wasn't. We just... we're like, we want to have a baby. We have 2 sets of ovaries, let's do it. We need a donor. Like, how do we do this? And we stumbled upon this thing called reciprocal IVF, which is where 2 women use one person's eggs to create embryos, and then the other partner carries the embryo. Okay. So one is the genetic parent, one is the gestational parent, or the birth parent.
I don't know much about this. Okay, wow.
So we stumbled upon this and we were like, oh my God, that's so cool. I really wanted the experience of being pregnant. I think part of it is tied to having put my body through so much and, just how incredible my body is, and I just really wanted that experience of being pregnant and breastfeeding, and just knowing that my body could come back
strong.
Whereas Audrey, if you met her, she's just not the kind of pregnant type of person. She would do it if she had to, is what she says. But she loved the idea of being able to give her eggs, so that she would be genetically their parent. So we went to a clinic in Ireland and very quickly had that bubble popped because we were told it actually wasn't licensed for in the Irish clinics at that time. So this was 2015.
Okay, I was going to say,
2015, year of the marriage referendum. And we were like, that's ridiculous. If Audrey was a man, I could use an egg donor and use her sperm. Like, it was a ridiculous technicality. But anyways, we couldn't do it, and the clinic, they just couldn't help us. So we very quickly, like everything in our life, if we're told no, we just go
do it anyway.
Figure it out. We'll go abroad. So we went abroad. We went to Spain initially and went through fertility treatment. As you know, it's not a straightforward process. I learned a lot going through that first cycle. It didn't happen immediately. I had a chemical pregnancy. And then very thankfully and luckily became pregnant with our first daughter Ava in November of 2015.
And so the donor situation is all set up in Spain, or is that something you have to do from here? No, so that is dealt with. Okay, right. So it's a big thing.
It was and it was really difficult doing treatment abroad and having no support here. We didn't even know any other same-sex parents. We didn't even know people who had gone through IVF, like heterosexual couples. We knew nothing.
Well, because nobody talks about everything. They do now. But it's all like, no, we just had a baby.
Yeah.
Well, really?
Yeah.
So you're there, you get pregnant, so you have your chemical first, which is awfully depressing because you don't know what that is, and you're like, why is this happening? And then
it's like
you're treated as a miscarriage.
And it's like I always call it a miscarriage because it was. I was pregnant and then I wasn't.
It's a goer, and then it is
and
not
then
a
it's
goer,
not.
and it's
really
and
especially
hard.
when you're testing so early.
Oh gosh.
And you see a positive, and then
And you're showing everyone the positive, strong. It's getting stronger than it's not. No, it's really hard. Chemical pregnancy is really conflicting.
Awful. Yeah. So
you get pregnant.
And up to this point, we were just naive in this, that the hurdle was to get pregnant. And once we had the baby, everything would be fine. I mean, we'd be parents and it'd be hard, but it would be fine. And when we got married when I was 5 months pregnant.
Wow, gosh.
So like literally just doing all the things, cramming it all in. And when I was about 7-8 months pregnant, we found out that I was going to be considered a single parent when I gave birth because of the current legislation. And we had no idea this was ahead of us. We were not prepared at all. We were like, that is crazy. That doesn't make sense.
Sorry. I've got a frog.
Yeah.
You didn't know that going over to Spain?
No.
So you didn't know you would come back with this big hurdle? You didn't know that at all?
No, we had no idea. And, we grappled with it for a while because we were like, that it just doesn't make any sense. If anyone should be on the birth cert, it should be Audrey because she's the genetic parent, but under Irish law, the woman who gives birth is the biological mother, end of. So it was just crazy. I was like, but we're married. Like every other married couple doesn't, you don't question any other married couple of how they had their child. If someone is giving birth to a baby and they rock up into the registration unit and they're like, hey, this is the dad. End of. There's no genetic testing. Do you know what I mean? So it just didn't, I was like, it just doesn't make sense. So I suppose for me and for us, that was the start of the campaigning work. I always call myself an accidental activist. Amazing. Because I don't even know what the hell activism is. It's seen
it's you and Audrey.
It's seen an injustice and talking about it and making noise about it and trying to get it changed. So
which you did.
Yeah. So that was 2016
and you have a baby.
Yeah, and we have a baby.
Which is no joke.
So I think the first, magazine cover we did was, December of, it was that year.
Yeah.
Ava was tiny, and then we went on Ireland AM and we started talking on radio shows and just talking to anyone who would listen. And I started a blog and I started kind of talking more on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And that was the beginning of it. Okay. And when that happened, I always said to myself, okay, I'll make some noise about this. Other people will make some noise about this. And there's no way we'll ever be in the situation that we have our second baby and we'll be in the same situation again. I was like, no, that will never happen.
This will be resolved
within the year. Absolutely. Fast forward to New Year's Eve, 2018. Okay. Ava is 2 years and 3 months. And I've just given birth to our second daughter, Aria.
This was done in Ireland through.
No,
you
still couldn't do it in Ireland. Where in 2018. We actually went back to our clinic in Spain and had unsuccessful treatment, a bit of heartbreak, and ended up moving clinic. So we moved to a clinic in Portugal.
Okay.
And we were successful first time, and it was amazing. But we were in the same situation. Ireland still hadn't progressed. So I remember the fireworks going off on New Year's Eve. Like I was getting a blood transfusion after losing a lot of blood, newborn, trying to latch a newborn, all of this going on, and just being so angry.
And it's a shit just seeing show, let's be honest. It's a shit show. You have a 2.5 year, like that is no joke either. Yeah. Let's just be honest about it. 2 kids under a certain and your blood transfusion, breastfeeding, stress.
Yeah. Audrey had to leave to go get Ava because Ava was really upset. She was with my brother and sister-in-law, and Audrey had to go comfort Ava. I was left with this newborn, and I was just lying there thinking, this is like insane,
frustrating
that I am still considered a single parent. I am still going to have to be the one to consent to the heel prick test. I'm, just all of these things.
It also, besides the fact it's unfair and unequal, besides that, it puts a lot of onus and responsibility and stress on you. I would say, it's like it's all on you, sister.
It's all on me.
And that's another thing that we,
I'm the one, and we're still trying to get out of that habit where it's automatically me that would fill in something for 100%. School, or even though Audrey's now the one who's full time at home with the kids and I'm out working full time, it's still sometimes like no, I don't need to do that. You do that. You know?
Rage is so important. I talk about this a lot to my friends and my husband, and he actually agrees. I think he used to think I was crazy. Rage is so important. When you get to a stage when you're frustrated about something and you're banging your head against a wall and there's a lot of emotion, because sometimes emotion doesn't drive, the rage is so vital to getting a result, because if you don't have that, really you're just basing it off just a lot of kind of scurried drama and upset. And when you can filter that rage into something, which is, you know, you've got a newborn and 2.5-year-old, this is your family, this is your life, you're going to make it happen. So you filter that rage.
Oh, absolutely. I remember we're on Ireland AM. I think Aria was a week old and we had a 2-year-old. And honestly, I look back at the footage and I'm like, Jesus, I was a shell of a person.
You're a hot mess. You were gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
But I was so angry.
You had to do it. Yeah.
Start of 2019, I was so angry. We started a court case. We took a court case against the state, and really started up again with making a lot of noise.
Don't mess with this lady.
Don't mess with our kids.
Don't mess with this one.
Yeah, that's what it is. Don't mess with our kids. And we had been talking to lots of other people that year, and you know, just trying to figure out how do we move this forward. Like, no one is listening. I'd been writing to the Minister for Health for years. I'd been writing to politicians. I'd been tweeting at them. I'd been tagging them. No one is responding to us. All the letters we're getting back are, blah, blah, blah. No one is listening. And I decided to launch a petition. And I love this story because, you know, sometimes people sign petitions and you think they don't do anything. Like, what could they possibly do? I started a petition to Simon Harris, who was then the Minister for Health, asking him to enact this piece of legislation that had been sitting there since 2015. Now, this is called the Children and Family Relationships Act. It is a piece of legislation that has many parts. One of the parts is about donor-conceived children. Okay. And it is a piece of legislation that allows for 2 women to both be on the birth certificate of a donor-conceived child, so long as they meet specific criteria. So it had been passed in 2015, but it had never been commenced because there was lots of problems with it and they had to amend it, and just lots of legislative stuff needed to happen. So I started this petition saying, Simon Harris, this is my family. I'm a single parent. I'm married. My wife is a biological mother to our 2 children. She's a legal stranger to them. Please enact this Children and Family Relationships Act, and please amend it so that it includes all donor-conceived children and not just those who meet the very, very, very specific criteria that's outlined in it. So I started that petition, and literally a couple of hours after it hit 20,000 signatures, I had an email from Simon Harris.
Wow.
So I have screenshots of like the numbers creeping up and up and up, and then a screenshot of the email a couple of hours after. So obviously they were, you know, his people were watching it, and, you know, once it got to a certain number, it was like, we need to address this.
You are some woman.
Do you know what?
No, that's incredible. It's incredible. That's absolutely outstanding. And for someone, yes, he's a good man and a good person, but by the same token, he's a politician with a day-to-day job in his own life. Yeah. That's wonderful.
So that was the first in. So we had arranged a meeting with him for October 2019. Right before that happened, all the stars aligned, and we had this kind of meetup that we had arranged with other queer parents, because there was nothing like that. We wanted to widen our circle of people, and we just kind of wanted to let our kids hang out with other families.
All
that
done through social media networking?
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It was like WhatsApp groups and Instagram, and I was like, hey, we've rented out a hall, come on, you know, Brilliant. Let's have tea and coffee. Everyone met up that Sunday morning, and that's where Equality for Children happened. It was just very grassroots, very organic. Paula, the CEO of LGBT Ireland, was there. You know, she's a same-sex parent with her wife. They have 2 kids. She was there, and we all kind of were chatting, and everyone was like, what do we do? Like, nothing's happening. Like, Ranae, you've been shouting about this forever and no one's listening. And we kind of decided, look, collectively they have to listen to us. You know, one person on their own, what is that? But a group of people you know, an actual organization, and we kind of took
movement, you know.
Yeah, and we kind of took, you know, inspiration from other movements that have happened recently, in recent years, where big change has happened, and it's always been by people sharing their stories and coming together and fighting against injustice. So at that point, our meeting with Simon Harris, I think, was in a week and a half, and we formed Equality for Children that day over like a WhatsApp group, you know, after we went home. It was literally, we were like throwing around names.
I mean, it could have been like Renee's people, but you know, you're not.
No, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no. So yeah, the name, and we had the social handles, we had a website set up.
Wow.
And so when we went to that meeting with Simon Harris, it was as Equality for Children. So I went, and other members of Equality for Children went, and LGBT Ireland came with us also. So that's how it was born, I guess, and it's continued and evolved. We'll be coming up on our 4th birthday later on this year, and yeah, it's been busy. It's been very busy because obviously COVID happened right after we formed. But I suppose why we exist, and we're going to exist until all children of LGBTQ plus families are considered equal and have equal access to both of their parents.
And surrogacy is a whole other ball game. I'm going to be speaking to someone in the series regarding that whole issue and recognition. But you are both recognised.
So we are, and this only happened in 2020. We finally got that piece of legislation I was talking about that finally commenced. I will say it's very narrow criteria, which this is something we're currently really focusing on. So the criteria is that you have to have treatment in an Irish clinic.
Wow.
You have to use a certain type of sperm donor that goes on a sperm donor registry. And then your child has to be born in Ireland. So those are the current criteria. So anyone listening to this who's thinking of having a child, if you want to be both legal parents, you have to go to an Irish clinic and you have to meet all those criteria.
And how did you kind of bypass?
So we bypassed that because before the legislation came in, there was an amnesty.
Okay.
So if you had done fertility treatment in any clinic, anywhere, any type of donor, but as long as the child was still born here, you had an amnesty and you could go to court. So we had to go to court to get a declaration of parentage. And then had to go back to the registration unit, had to get, you know, it was a whole thing. It wasn't straightforward, but we finally have recognition for our 2 current children.
So I don't want to say congratulations. I do, but I don't, because I feel like it should have been a given. Okay, it should have been a given. So by saying congratulations, I'm kind of like, oh, well done. Yeah. When actually, why is it okay for me to just walk out of my Hollis Street bed? And so yes, I'm thrilled for you, but it must have been frustrating. I want to quickly touch before I get into all this other wonderful stuff. You spoke about the traumas that you suffered regarding eating disorders and having to get therapy, having to go through that, having to get treatment. You've spoken about having to go through IVF in another country. That ain't no joke, right? So we're kind of like, IVF is a hormonal, like it's a tricky procedure and it's stressful and it's hard on the body. You've spoken about a court case. You've spoken about, if you were listening to this, you're just like, wow, this woman is a hero. She's but there's also a certain, you know, minority who might go, but this is also someone who has privilege. Okay. There are so many broken people in this country who come from perhaps bad care homes or bad families and have suffered so much abuse, right? And are going through all of these things. And we all know that therapy is so vital. It is so vital. And it's not that easily to access and it's expensive. And we all know that there are people who would like to maybe have a baby on their own or have a baby, and that can also be seen as expensive. So I'm not saying that you sound like some kind of millionaire, but this is sometimes hard for people to grasp because it can seem like a privileged place, whereas actually you've probably had to work really hard for all of this. Audrey has had to, you know, work extra, but sometimes that can be seen as that. And I think it's important for you to kind of relate how tricky all of these things have been.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the court case was, you know, we didn't fund that. We couldn't have taken a court case and funded it. It was taken on the condition that if we won the court case, the state would pay their fees. You know, so we didn't end up paying
big legal fees.
No, and we couldn't have done that. We would have bankrupted ourselves. So and in terms of all the other, like, I've taken a lot of time away from my family to do this volunteer work, and Audrey has had to pick up the slack. Like, there were times where she was working 2 jobs at once, and not being able to be home and be with me and see the kids, and I'm juggling 2 kids and trying to do phone-in interview, and there's kids shouting in the background, and I'm throwing on Peppa Pig. And
so the reality is it's really hard.
It was really
not
hard.
An easy road,
But what I will say is that I have huge privilege in even just in my education and in how I know how to stand up for myself, and I know how to use my voice, and I know how to kind of navigate the system, and that in itself has been a huge privilege for me, and I don't think that anyone could do that.
Would you, as much as you had a tricky upbringing or differences with your mum, but you loved her so much, would you say that she is part of that spirit in you, that voice? Is she a strong?
Absolutely. Oh my
wow.
God, she's like the strongest.
Wow.
She's very complicated, but she's one of the strongest women I know.
So she has also given you this voice in a way too.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I'm not sure how she'd feel about that.
Yes, but that's so interesting.
I know.
Because it comes from you, and your same privilege as education. You learn communication, you learn all of it, absolutely right. But it also is genetic sometimes. Like, there's a passion and fire in you, and that comes from somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
How are the kids?
So the kids are great.
What age are they now?
6 and 4. They are typical sisters. They love each other to death.
Why are they so cute? They're so cute.
They're very cute. We just always joke. Actually, one of Audrey's friends texted her the other day saying, "Rooney, you have turbo eggs." She has turbo eggs. They're literally so cute.
If you don't follow Ranae, I'm sure you will do if you're listening to this, but if you don't follow, like, the crack and the madness and the cuteness and the entertainment sometimes I need, and the reality check, also not perfect. But so cute.
They're very cute, and we're very lucky, and we have a lot of fun with them. Like, it's very hard to be a parent, but we do count ourselves very lucky. We have good kids, and they love life, and we love life with them.
And they understanding your 6-year-old the double cool mom vibes at home.
Oh yeah.
Is there ever chats about that? Like, she's obviously 6, so it's like my 5-year-old.
Like, we've been talking about like how she was conceived since she could talk. We've always been talking about it. She knows that there are lots of different family types. She knows about surrogacy. She knows about adoption. She knows about fostering. She knows about single parents, blended families. She knows about it all, and she knows what her family is, and she's really proud of it. And I think, and any kid who asks her, where's your dad? And she's like, oh no, I have 2 moms. They're like, oh my God.
So cool.
Yeah. 2 moms? What? Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to say it, but that's so cool.
Yeah.
So they're good. The family is good.
Yeah.
You're thriving. You're doing so much wonderful advocacy. I even saw you speaking about type 1 diabetes. I think it was regarding your sister, and that's something else that you seem to now be advocating for as well. I didn't know that you were a type 1 diabetic.
So I was diagnosed just after I recovered from the eating disorder.
Wow.
And that was a bit of an ironic universe moment of I'm recovering from one form of needing to know what I'm eating and and then here's type 1 diabetes. It's another form of extreme control.
Wow.
So it was a big life adjustment. And we took a year between me being diagnosed and then trying to start for IVF, because it was, for me, physically and mentally, type 1 diabetes is an invisible illness, and I think people don't understand how much mental energy goes into it. I have, over the years, been burnt out so many times just purely because I need to know what I'm eating all the time. I carb count. I have to think about, am I sick? Am I hormonal? Am I ovulating? Am I excited? Adrenaline can spike your sugars. And then I need to calculate how much insulin I need, and then how much insulin I've already taken, because it lasts for 4 hours. And, it's a constant mathematical juggle. And then if you're dealing with anything else on top of that, especially kids pulling at you, and I have all my kit. I have an insulin pump, I have a continuous glucose monitor, so I have all this stuff attached to me as well, and it's constant. But because you would never know by looking at me that I'm dealing with this, people just take it for granted, and it can be exhausting. Like there are days where I just get the most extreme brain fog and tiredness, and if I have a low, I just completely shut down and my brain can't function and I'm slurring words. And you know, if you're in work and this is happening and no one can see that it's happening to you, it's a lot to deal with.
If you're someone listening to this and they have type 1 diabetes and they're worried about getting pregnant, was it a huge challenge being pregnant and dealing and monitoring, or actually is it not as complicated, or is it more complicated?
It's definitely
more.
more.
It seems scary.
Yeah, it's definitely more complicated. I would say it's not as scary as it seems, but it is more complicated. And in terms of, you just have to monitor more. You have to be very aware of your sugars. They don't want you to have high blood sugars because high blood sugars can lead to complications in pregnancy. So they want you to have really, really tight control. But then having tight control means that you're kind of at risk of having those lows. And those lows are awful. So in my first pregnancy, I was having 5 or 6 hypos a day, which is a really bad low blood glucose level. And what you have to do in that case is have lots of sugar to bring you back up. And then it would happen again, and more sugar. So I was having like just handfuls of jelly beans that I didn't want. I wasn't enjoying them.
It
was
not
just
like a fun thing.
No, and then you feel crappy for the rest of the day. So that was my first pregnancy, and it was very difficult because I had only been diabetic for a couple of years at that point. I didn't have a pump. I didn't have a CGM. So the first pregnancy was definitely difficult. And also I didn't know about like my own rights when it came to being a pregnant person and, you know, being able to say no and to say, well, actually, no, I don't want to do that. You know, there was a lot of management of me in that pregnancy, which led to a not so pleasant birth experience first time around.
Sounds right.
Second time around as a diabetic and being pregnant, I was on a pump, I was on a CGM, and I knew so much more about my body, how I reacted to pregnancy, and it was just a much, much easier experience. And I knew at that point how to advocate for myself and how to stand up for myself. So the second pregnancy was quite easy, I would say.
Okay, so anyone listening, get the right advice and care, but advocate for yourself. I always say this when I was pregnant. I probably didn't advocate. I don't want to let you go, but I have to let you go at some point. But I wanted to really quickly do a quick fire at the end. So just your first answer that comes to mind, because I kind of think it's a nice, fun thing to leave us on. What a story, though. I just want to say you have such a soul and spirit, and you're the most special person. And keep doing what you're doing, because we need more of you in this world. You're incredible. So here we go. Do your child sleep?
No,
do your
never,
child sleep? Do your children sleep?
They do not. We haven't slept in 6 years.
Good, because someone said yes, a yes.
I hate that person.
Are we too child-centric?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Happiest recent memory?
Our kids finding out that there's a baby in my tummy.
Best thing about children?
How fun they are and how they make you feel like a kid again.
Favorite thing to do on your own?
Read.
A hero of yours?
This is a bit corny, but my wife, just kind of putting up with me, saving my life multiple times.
And finally, Ranae, biggest fear for your kids?
Oh, there's too many. But biggest fear probably is just that they would not be themselves and not be happy in life. You know?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Little Birdie Told Me. And if you did, it would be wonderful if you could subscribe to the podcast.